And grow on the microphone. What's up, YouTube? We're doing legs today. So I'm sitting here on the leg extension, kind of loosening the leg up with the, I'm still going to call it a hypervolt, so I don't know what else to call it. But legs, I really spend a little extra time kind of warming up because I've gotten real tight and had issues in the past. So while we're warming up and kind of loosening up, I'll kind of tell you my story with the legs. So my dad has crazy legs, or had crazy legs. So anyhow, I do have pretty good genetics for legs, and back when I competed in bodybuilding, I had pretty decent sized legs. And then, you know, after I stopped competing, I found Rich Piana and followed him for quite a while. And I remember him talking about how he didn't really do as much for his legs anymore. Kind of the same reason, you know, after the competitive days, it wasn't really necessary to have big, huge legs anymore. Issues with that, like having trouble finding pants that fit, in thighs rubbing together, getting chafing, things like that. You know, it was super frustrating. So after, you know, hearing that, I was like, that makes sense to me. I don't need to fucking do legs anymore. So I stopped training legs for, I don't remember, it was probably like 2 years, maybe, something like that. I do them once in a while, like every couple months. I would just kind of do a little easy leg workout just to kind of do something. But I had good sized legs, so it wasn't like, you know, I just didn't have legs or anything like that. They're still good size, still cut and everything like that, but I didn't train them directly. So what I did is, instead of having a regular leg day, I added a second arm day. So I trained arms twice a week for a while because I always wanted big arms. So that was fine, you know, but what happened was, because I wasn't training my legs, I didn't lose stability, but I didn't have the stability in the hips and everything like that to support the mass of my upper body, or it just wasn't stimulated enough to do that. So I started getting really tight in my hips, really tight in my lower back, and all kinds of issues for quite a while from not doing that. So that's one thing I can tell you from experience, that, you know, while you know, it's important to have good sized legs and be strong and everything like that, even if you don't care about that, it's still important to at least train the legs in some way so that you stimulate them, so that you have that stability, everything like that. So you'll see as I go through the workout today, like, I still train legs hard, but the approach I take, or I guess like the intention behind it, isn't quite the same as what I do with my upper body. I still train them for the most part like a bodybuilder would, but I put more of my attention, more of my focus into the movement and the form. But I'm really focused on just having my legs be able to move. You know, I want to be able to run, run with the dogs. We live in Colorado, so we go hiking a lot. Things like that. You know, I want to be able to move, be athletic with my legs. So I don't want to have small legs, but I'm not necessarily trying to have legs that are proportional with my upper body because I want to keep building my upper body because I like that. But my legs, I'm going for more of an athletic approach. Start with leg extensions. We're just doing a warm up here. And yes, I am lifting in slippers right now. So for my first two exercises, we're doing leg extensions, and we're going to go over there and do lying leg curls. So I'm not using my feet, and then when I switch over to leg presses, deadlifts, everything else we're going to do today, I'm going to put on my lifting shoes. So rather than wearing those for these when I don't need them, I wear my slippers, mostly because I can, because I'm at my house and it makes me feel good to do something like that, just for fun. But so this first one, we got 45 pounds on there. Super light. I'm just basically taking my knees through a range of motion, kind of letting it get a good tuck back like this. So you want to set this up to where the pad is right into the back of the knee, and then your back is already all the way back on the pad here. Now this is still light. Like I said, we're just moving. But both these exercises, and I'll talk more about it as we get into the heavier sets, people go way too heavy on a lot. So if you've seen the leg extension that has a seat belt on it, that is dumb. That shouldn't exist. Because if you're going to a point where your hips are coming off the seat, that's because your legs are not releasing. You're going so heavy that your nervous system is like, bro, if we let go, we're gonna fucking break. So you're staying super tense and like fighting against your body through that whole rep. So if you're coming off the bench, it's way too heavy and you're defeating the purpose. So I don't know why they put them on there. I guess so people can go heavy, but if you're going that heavy, that's not what you should be doing. So first one, super, super light, not counting reps. We're just kind of going through it. So this is another one, leg curl. A lot of people do too heavy, and I'm gonna show you the biggest mistake that people do is, you've probably seen this, where the hips lift up like this when you curl. If you're doing that, you're mostly pulling with that low back. You're getting a little bit of hamstring in there, but you're missing most of that hamstring, because when you arch like that, poke your ass up in the air, it changes the angle and you just don't get that squeeze. So what we want to do when we lay down, you want to tuck your hips, think like you're tucking your tail, squeeze the glutes, pressing into the bench, keep the ribs down so you're not arched like this, elbows back. And then when you curl, when you do that leg curl, imagine like you're trying to push your thigh down into that pad, and rather than thinking of pulling your heel up like that, think more like that hamstring is just sliding up the back of your leg like that, right? So I'm gonna get on, tuck my ribs down, get my beard out of the way, squeeze the glutes, feel that stretch, drive the thighs into the pad. You really wanna make sure those hips are not lifting up off the bench. As you can see, I kind of pull my toes back a little bit, not a lot, I'm not forcing it, and I kind of go the other way as I come. Same thing like you'd be doing a curl, how your wrist would kind of come over the top like that. Same type of thing. It just gets a little extra stretch and a little extra squeeze. This is something I really like. So we're going to use the infinity arm here as a step. So now what I really like about this, because this really helps me for the glutes. One of the biggest things that's a struggle for me is hitting that lower part, pulling my hips up. So being able to get into this position where my hips are down low, below my knee, but then I can also use this for support and balance. So I'm not doing that. I can really focus on that glute. You're gonna lower yourself down, don't quite touch the floor. And you really wanna think dropping that hip back, keeping the abs tight, squeezing the glute to come forward. Those are harder than they look. I mean, I guess I am lifting fairly decent weight, lifting my body like that. So I've found, honestly, works best for the calves is giving this little bit of an angle like this, keeping the legs relatively straight, not perfectly straight. We're gonna get a good stretch and we're gonna come up and hold. So you see I get that little bounce at the top? I'm not trying to do that. I'm really trying to control that bounce, but it's just a hard explosive press. Slow down, and that squeeze at the top is just the kind of stabilizing the weight. But that slow negative, big stretch, and the slight hold at the top has done more than anything else to really build my calves, which is something I've struggled with for a long time. Would not say that I'm known for having great calves by any means, but this technique has helped more than anything else. Those motherfuckers burn. So these first exercises are mostly activation. Just getting everything working. So now we're gonna go a bit heavier. So we're gonna go up about 100 pounds. So this is like, I still wouldn't consider it heavy. I mean, I'm gonna have to do some work, but it's not heavy. And like I said, I don't, particularly on something like this, for me, I don't really count reps. I just kind of go completely by feel, particularly for these leg extensions. I'll sit down so you can see what I'm talking about. The most important thing, squeeze in there. The most important thing is on the way back, as I'm getting that full stretch and I'm really feeling the muscle, I like to say release or open up. You don't want to feel tension the whole time. Like when people talk about constant tension, like that's a good thing. You want constant tension. That is how you build muscle. But that term kind of misrepresents what's actually going on, right? Like I'm gonna use bench press, for example, just because it's easier to show even though we're training legs. But if I come down, that muscle is gonna stretch, release, and then come back up, as opposed to pausing and then going. So we come down, right back up. But if you're going so heavy where you're just like resisting and fighting the whole time, that's just like one big long rep. You're not actually getting reps. You're not getting that stretch. So that's where I want to make sure that my hips stay back. Then I'm not coming off the seat. Then I'm going all the way back. I'm feeling that quad open up, and then I'm getting a good full squeeze of the top. So you see, once I start doing this set, I still do a little hold at the top. It's not like heavy swinging type of thing. I am going to be explosive with it, but I do a little bit of a hold at the top. Actually, hold on. Forgot to put weights on the back. We're going to rock out of the machine. Oh. Oh man, those fuckers burn. Ugh. 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 The last one I feel my hips kind of want to come up a little bit like I was talking about, so we don't want that. So that's one of the things about discipline is knowing when to stop. Knowing when, like, you could probably do a couple more reps, like you could lift the weight, but your form's not there. So the thing is, we'll come over here while we're talking. It's like you've heard it a million times. More isn't always better. So like that, like if you can do 2-3 more reps, but the reps aren't good, you didn't actually do 2 or 3 more reps. You did however many you did, and then you did 3 shitty things. You know what I'm saying? So you're not getting the benefit that you're trying to get anyway, so that's not happening regardless. But now you're expending energy, stressing the nervous system, impairing your recovery ability for no benefit. See what I'm saying? So that's part of discipline. Is the thing is, a lot of times when people talk about discipline, it's directed at people that don't fucking do anything, that don't go to the gym, don't stick to their diet. So those are the people that a lot of these discipline speeches are directed at. And what happens is people that actually are consistent hear that shit and they think it's about them when it's not. So that's the thing. Just as one person might need to be disciplined to actually go to the gym and actually try hard when they go. Other people need to be disciplined by taking a rest day and by going a little bit lighter or doing a few less reps. Like that's a whole nother discipline. It's discipline. If you can't control yourself in the gym, that's not any different than a person who can't control themselves with food. You see what I'm saying? Like it's still, you're out of control. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes discipline is not doing things, not just doing them. So those ones you can see are not exactly partial reps. They're not full reps either. But basically what I'm trying to do with this is just, I'm teaching the glute to fire correctly. So I'm just trying to get that fire to launch me up. I'm not necessarily trying to go through full extension. We'll do that on other stuff. But it's just getting that activation. So that's the thing is, it's important to understand what you're doing and why. And that's why when you like, if you just see somebody doing something in the gym or in a video or something like that, and you don't understand why they're doing it, and you just start doing this technique that you saw, but you don't understand what you're doing or why, that's where you can make mistakes and do stuff that's not actually benefiting you, because it might be benefiting them, but that's why it's important to actually understand what you're doing and doing things for the right reason. And mostly I'm talking to delay doing this on my leg.
I don't really have too much to say right now. What's that?
Other thing I try to do is I try to really spread my toes out like that, so I have a good stable base to push from. Hold myself down the seat. I think I keep the weight the same for these last ones. Again, that's the thing with legs, I do a little bit different. Like I said, I'm not pushing crazy weight. I go with what feels good. Still want to stimulate, you know, but like I said, I'm not really trying to build my legs up at this point. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to have, you know, still I want to have legs. I want them to be full. I want to still, you know, have some definition and stuff. I like that. I like having the veins when I'm lean and everything. But like I said, I mean, I've been where like I'm trying to sleep and my quads are like smashing my balls. Like that's not fun. You know what I'm saying? So like big legs, if you're not fucking competing and being judged, like do what you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to have huge fucking legs, by all means go for it. But personally, like I said, I want to have good size legs. I'm still talking bigger than most people's legs. You know what I'm saying? Like most of the people will be talking shit on my legs. My legs are probably bigger than theirs. So, but yeah, man, for me, athleticism, endurance, like I said, I don't really count reps. Like I still go around that 10 to 15 like I do on other stuff, but more I'm going by how I feel. Like we're gonna do leg press next. I'll talk about it when we get there. I'm gonna go a little bit heavier. Reps might be a little bit lower, but at the same time, I'm still going for reps. I want my legs to, I wanna be able to do stuff. I wanna be able to hike in the mountains for a few hours and not get tired, you know, stuff like that. Play with the dogs, things like that. I don't really give a shit about squatting 600 pounds anymore. I've done it before, but like I said, that doesn't matter to me anymore. All right, stop wasting time. Oh. All right. Oh. So these are like, there's a little flex here, but they're really stiff through the bottom. They have this little wedge angle, so it really positions your feet, knees, hips, ankles, all that right how you want. It kind of locks you in to place. So we're gonna do the leg press, which I don't know that you typically wear the lifting shoes for leg press, but I do. Like I said, it just kind of locks me in, kind of the same way where I like to use straps sometimes with, whether it be even shoulders, just to kind of lock my hand into that dumbbell so I have better control of the delt. Same thing here. Just kind of stabilize me on the platform or the floor a little bit better so I can isolate the legs a little bit more. The leg press is, we're gonna do this in the middle. So this is kind of like my meat of the workout type of thing. We're gonna finish with deadlifts. Occasionally, I'll go pretty heavy on deadlifts, literally just for fun. I like deadlifts. It's one of my favorite exercises. Heavy deadlifts is just really fun for me. So if I go heavy on my deadlifts, it's literally just for my entertainment, for fun. Are you not entertained? Like, I'm not trying to have a crazy deadlift anymore. Same thing, like just where I'm at with my life, with my career, and doing all this and making content and everything, really relies on me not being injured and being able to do it. So if I push it too much and hurt myself, and then I can't do this for a few weeks or whatever, I can't make the content for you guys, all that kind of stuff, like, it kind of defeats the purpose. And like I said, I mean, I'm not trying to have a crazy max. I'm not trying to have ridiculous legs or really anything. Like, it's just the risk versus reward doesn't make sense for me to put myself in a place where I might get hurt. You know what I'm saying? So using the leg press as kind of my heavy exercise for safety reasons really is just a more beneficial thing for me. What we're going to do, and I use a variety of different stances, and as you follow along with me and come along through more leg workouts that I do, I'll show you some of those variety. Today I'm going to do what I call a deep squat foot stance. So you come around here and kind of look, is I'm going relatively narrow. So I use this like circle on my leg press as kind of a guide. Toes are slightly angled out. So I'm just coming down, knees are going to come towards my shoulders, kind of along my body. And really I'm just focusing on getting nice and deep. I'm focusing on bracing my core. And on this, I'm actually come around to the side. Let me show you this part. So you see how the seat is kind of rounded here? At first I didn't like that, but after kind of using it, thinking about it, I do. So what this is going to do when I come back, I'm going to actually let my hips, you'll see, lift off the seat a little bit, and I'm going to get some rounding to my back, right? And we're doing that on purpose. And the reason why is because, like, on a squat or a deadlift, you don't want to round your back, right? Because you can slip something that's not good. Here, where I have the support from the seat to protect my back, I can get a little bit of flexion like that, which is the way that your spine bends. Like, your spine is meant to bend this way. So this is, you don't want to go this way, right? So if I'm getting some rounding this way when I'm supported, that's going to help stretch and loosen and actually put more health into that lower back. So that's where I used to just really keep my hips glued down, didn't want the hips to come up at all. And that's what actually got me really, really tight and caused more problems than I was doing it to be safe, but it actually did the opposite. So it make more sense when you see it, but we're going to brace that core. So I'm thinking like I'm pushing my spine down into that seat. Gonna come up. The knees, you can see my hips come up a little bit. Press back up. Oh. So yeah, those ones, it's all about keeping those feet really flat, getting that good ankle flexibility, getting that flexibility in the hip, getting those knees back really far, keeping that core braced. So I'm like, in a way, kind of using it like a mobility exercise. So that's what, 290 in weight. So I mean, it's not very much. It's still, going 300 pounds, like it's not nothing, but like I said, that's not heavy to me. Like I don't want to say I could easily do twice that, but not throw up.
Ugh. Brother, ugh.
I could definitely do double this weight, but I wouldn't be able to slow it down like I am and really focus on the mobility of it. Like I keep saying, that's, for me and my personal goals, the most important thing right now is being able to be mobile. We're gonna come back here to the leg extension, and we're gonna do standing leg curls on here. Standing here backwards. So my machine has this bar that goes across the bottom. Other ones in the gym I've seen don't have that. So for me, I just put my foot up on that. If the machine at the gym doesn't have that bar, I just throw a plate under there. Just put this other foot on that plate just to elevate the other one a little bit so you're not dragging on the ground. So we're gonna put our leg right up against here, and you wanna make sure the hips are forward. You don't wanna have your hips back like this. I'll show you with the other leg. So if you have your hips back like this, it's kind of like what I was talking about over on the lion leg curl. You're pulling with the lower back, you're doing a lot of other stuff. So you wanna have hips forward, tuck that core, don't arch the back, keep it up like this, and think like you're pulling the hamstring straight up the back of the leg. Well, those last ones slipping on the form a little bit. Sumo deadlifts with a landmine. Now, you'll see my sumos are not very wide because, like I was saying, I don't have the greatest hip mobility. So that's part of why I do it. I use it to kind of develop that hip mobility. I'm really using this as a glute exercise. So what I'm doing is I'm getting my legs turned out, my thighs turned out, right? So feet are turned down, but I want you to think about is really getting this bone turned out, because what a lot of people do, knees will be forward and they'll kind of turn their feet out a little bit, But this is still rotating. I don't know if you guys can see how my thigh is rotated this way, but then my foot is rotated this way. So that's not good. So if you think rather than turning the toes out, think heels in, you rotate the heels in, you're going to get more of a rotation actually in the socket of that hip, which is what we really want. So I'm going to get that position. I'm going to kind of tuck my hips forward just to get my ribs and hips in position, brace that core, and I'm going to think like I'm dropping my hips more straight down like this, and I'm pushing through the glutes. So what I'm thinking about on these is I'm thinking like I'm pushing my knees in, right? So come down here, long arms, go a little bit wider. Brace the core. In between sets is better when you got them. Okay, let's do another set. Or fuck, we have to do it. Fucking calves. All right.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
So calf, this one, I'm gonna be back on the leg press. So basically the same exercise, but we're gonna do it a little bit differently. So one, I've added some weight from the last one. So the first one I was doing to my slippers, but being that they're fucking slippers and flexible, the last one I was really focusing on like pressing with my toes. Now with these ones, with these stiffer shoes, you can't get that same kind of press and flexion through the midfoot. So this I'm going to be focusing on more like pulling my heels back or doing like a heel raise as opposed to a toe press. So to you watching, it's probably going to look like the fucking same exact exercise, but even though it really honestly is, the way that I'm doing it is different enough that the stimulation is actually quite different. So try it and you'll see what I'm saying. I mean, especially if you have the different types of shoes, but even if you don't, try doing these calf raises. Try a set of pushing with your toes on the ball of your feet, and then do another set where you're focused on lifting your heels, and you'll feel a big difference. And for these, I go a little bit more straight. Just a little closer. There we go. All right. Last set of leg press. Oh man. And grow on the microphone. Okay. Ah, I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
That's too damn bad!
He has the most fun personality ever. He loves to play, but he's also a big, sweet lover. Oh, God. Tell you, I'm feeling the dieting now. Been kind of what I call warm up cutting the last 2 weeks, something like that. 2 weeks, I think. So, what I mean by that is just kind of cutting out most of the junk. Well, cutting out all the junk, dialing things back a little bit, just kind of getting myself into that mode. And then this week's been more strict and really upping everything. And so usually when I do that, the first couple days are good, and then you kind of hit that wall where it's just like ooh, and you feel the calorie deficit. But then after a couple days, you kind of push through that plateau, and it's good. But legs will do that to you. They're wear out that last little bit of energy. So now we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the last two. So we're going to do conventional deadlifts. So now this one, I'm just going to do deadlifts and I think I got fur in my eye. Do conventional deadlifts and seated leg curls for the hamstrings. I'm not going to do a glute exercise on this because the conventional deadlifts are going to hit glutes pretty good. I mean, they hit everything pretty good. The way I'm going to do them is going to be a little bit, I'll show you when I do them, it's going to be a little bit more quad focused because I'm still kind of using it as, you know, a quad exercise, but getting a lot of glutes involved, so I'm not going to do another glute exercise. Hamstrings, they're getting used on the deadlifts as well. Kind of differently than those, so that's why I'm going to do that. And then calves, we already hit them pretty good, so I don't want to destroy them too much. We're going to do 225, I think, today. That's my plan anyway. Most of the time, I don't go over 225. Occasionally, I do, like I said, if I'm just feeling really good and kind of want to have some fun, then I'll up the weight occasionally. But like I said, I mean, doing that, I'm just very conscious of risking injury. You know what I'm saying? And that being said, you know, talking about injury and doing these deadlifts, I personally say that deadlifts are the most important exercise that anybody can do. And I think that everybody, regardless of their goal, regardless of their age, gender, any of that shit, everybody should be doing deadlifts. And the reason being, so I've also heard a lot of strength athletes say that if you're not, you know, a competitive powerlifter or a strongman or a, you know, athlete like that, you shouldn't be doing deadlifts, which I understand that, like, frame of mind coming from someone like that, you know what I'm saying? Because that's typically coming from like a strength athlete. I've heard a Robert Burst talk about that before. You know, you shouldn't do deadlifts, you're not doing that. And like I get it, because these guys that we're talking, I mean, these guys are lifting 700, 800, 1,000 pounds for deadlifts. And so that's what their idea is heavy shit. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that everybody should be doing heavy deadlifts, but a reasonable, manageable weight that you can do for reps, having that form of being able to bend down and pick something up. That's why I can't find the other clip that was already on the fucking bar.
I am the one, the way your son don't need to.
Anyway. But bending down and picking something up off the floor is something that every single fucking person does, whether they're a child picking up a toy or a fucking 80-year-old person picking up whatever, the trash. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's doing that. So we don't have to go heavy, but deadlifts are super, super important. So I am going to get my straps, like I said before. I don't need straps to do 225, but just to make it easier and not have to worry about my grip and just be able to move. So you'll see the way I do these, I'm still going to touch the floor, but it's kind of like a touch and go rep, because I'm really, my focus is not to get like a big, strong, heavy pull off the ground. It's to be just keeping my body moving through that range of motion properly. I want to make sure my hips are dropping back, my core is staying braced, my knees, ankles, everything's bending correctly. I'm coming up. I'm not, shooting my hips up too early and doing all this kind of stuff. So it's all about the form. So again, I'm not saying don't do heavy. If you want to, train everything heavy, if you want to get real strong, by all means do that. But like I say, just keep in mind what you're doing. If you're competitive, like I've said before in other things, injuries come with any sport, right? If you're playing football, you get hurt. You play hockey, I played hockey, you get hurt. Basketball, it happens, right? Sports, we get hurt. If you're, competing in the sport of weightlifting, powerlifting, bodybuilding, strongman, any of that shit, and you're pushing yourself, accidents happen. You know what I'm saying? We heal. That's the way it goes. But if you're doing this as for fun, right, to develop your body, to be healthy, to look good, feel good, you can do all that without risking injury. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I mean, I've fortunately not had any major injuries. When I say major, I mean like surgeries and stuff. I've had plenty of what I would say serious, serious in the terms of like I was hurt for a while and couldn't do things, but I didn't have to get surgery or something like that. So I've been really fortunate in that. But I've had enough minor injuries and setbacks that, like, I don't like to be an old guy that's preaching and shit like that. But I wish I would have listened to people that told me that when I was younger, that were older, to be careful with that. Because what I've realized later in my life is that if I didn't have all the setbacks that I had from pushing it like I did in the past, I could be exponentially farther, because like the setbacks wound up taking more time than any additional progress that I would have made by pushing it hard. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? Like, that's what I'm talking about by risk versus reward. Sometimes, like, if you risk it, you can be a little bit better. But if you fuck up, you wind up way worse, and then it takes longer to get back to where you were when you fucked up in the first place. All right. He's getting sick of me talking, so he's like, Dad, shut the fuck up and do your set. Okay. I talk about is, you know, I always call it training, right, versus working out, which sounds like the same thing, but I need to catch my breath a little bit more before I talk that much. So working out, I would say, is going to the gym and doing, whatever exercises, it's a leg day. Okay, we're gonna do squats, we're gonna do deadlifts, we're gonna do leg curls, obviously, right? So working out, you're just doing whatever exercises for whatever particular muscle you're working on that day. Training is more purposeful, like with intention. You're not just coming in the gym and doing deadlifts because that's what you start with, right? It's okay, why am I going to do deadlifts first, right? I didn't do deadlifts first. I'm doing deadlifts last. Why would I do that? That's a big, heavy exercise. Because like I said, I'm not trying to build a big, heavy deadlift. I'm trying to really maximize my movement patterns. So I did leg extensions first to really stretch out and activate the quads properly. I did leg press second so I could go a little bit harder and just not risk the back or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? And then I did deadlifts last while I'm fatigued, but that lets me like train a little harder, so to speak, with lighter weight. Like this 225 is gonna feel heavier to me now than had I done it first. Like if I would have done deadlifts for my first exercise, 225 would feel like fucking nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I'd have to be doing probably like 315, maybe more, to get the same kind of like feel. So again, for me, it's all about movement, it's safety, things like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say, like, focus on that movement pattern. Like, that's going to improve what I'm trying to improve on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just fucking rambling at this point. We'll do maybe another time. I was going to get more into detail on the tutorial of the deadlifts, but we're going to do that separately another time because my brain's fried at this point. That's the thing too with legs. If you get like nauseous or lightheaded training legs, that's a fairly normal thing. And so the reason being is when you train any muscle, you get to pump, right? Blood goes to the muscle. You only have so much blood in your body, right? So arms, relatively small muscles, so you get a good pump in your arms or shoulders. Oh boy. Oh motherfucker, I forgot to you get a good pump. Just a second. I gotta fix this shit properly. Anyhow, I was saying, yeah, you get a good pump in your arms or legs. They're relatively small muscles, so.
Your arms or shoulders.
Yeah. Go move. If you get a good pump in your arms or shoulders, they're not that big of muscles, right? So there's not that much blood. But you get a pump in like your legs or your back, something like that, a bigger muscle. There's a lot more blood in the leg, so there's not that much in your brain. So that's where getting lightheaded and dizzy is relatively normal. And then when you get nauseous when you're training legs, the best way that I can explain that is it's basically like motion sickness. It's not exactly motion sickness, but like when you get motion sickness and your equilibrium's kind of off, that's sort of the same thing that's happening. I mean, it's not the same, but it's a similar thing because you don't have as much blood in your brain because it's all in your legs. Then you're going to get kind of dizzy, which is then can lead to that nauseous feeling like motion sickness would. Okay. This machine, if you guys have a home gym, one of the best machines I think for home gym for legs, because you can do extensions, you can do standing leg curls, you can do seated leg curls. You can do kind of like a kickback leg raise if you get in there backwards like we're doing the standing leg curls. You can get kind of like a straight movement for the glutes. It's all right. I mean, the range of motion isn't quite as good as you like it to be, but it's a little bit of a good squeeze at the top, so it's good. You could do kneeling kickbacks on the floor. You know, kneeling down the floor, 1 foot up, kick back this way. You can do that. So it's a good machine because you can do so many different things with the one machine. It doesn't take up a ton of space. So that's always, you know, a big benefit, is to find stuff that's versatile when you're limited on space. Stance wise, what I like to find is just step back away from the bar, and you want to kind of find where you feel just the most comfortable hinge in the hips, knees. I mean, you'll see some people get real wide like this, and like for me, that's pulling me out so much. I feel unstable in my hips. It pushes my arms out too much. You know, you don't want to be too narrow either, but for me, I find right about here, and I can, if I lift my toes up, squeeze my quads, squeeze my glutes, I feel the bones in my hips just align perfectly. When I drop down, it's comfortable through the knees, hips, ankles, and I can kind of comfortably bounce through that movement. So when you find that, that's about the position you want. So then we want to get our grip. So you can see when I drop down to that bar, my knees are going to come out a little bit. So I want my grip to be where it's not going to be bumping into my legs. If I'm too close, my knees are going to be pushing into my arms. We don't want that. If we're too wide, it's going to strain the back too much. So for me, it's kind of right on that middle line. I'm going to come around, fold that over. And now what we're going to do, make sure we're lined up. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pull that bar back towards my knees, or not towards my knees, towards my shins. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop my butt down. And so as I'm dropping back like this, I'm kind of leaning back with the weight. I can't quite do it with this weight. If it was lighter, when I lean back like that, you'd see the weight actually come up off the ground. So what that's doing is that lean back, that's centering my body so I can push straight up, and that's not going to strain the back. So you pull back, drop the butt, and then from there, we're going to think of it basically like a squat. Straight up, dropping down. Not the best tutorial, but there's a few tips. Oh, that's good enough. Okay. All right. So that's relatively simple leg day today. Like I was saying, I'm definitely feeling the adjustment to the cut, to the calorie deficit. So didn't push things too much. Like I said the whole time, I don't push things crazy on legs anyway. But today, that's kind of showing you like a simple thing: leg extensions, leg curls, leg press, deadlifts. Super simple. Next time we do legs, we'll do some different stuff. What I'll try to do, I mean, you know, we'll see where it works out in the program, but what I'll probably do next time is show you guys some more not exactly isolation stuff, but we'll do like single leg press, which is going to isolate the one leg. It wouldn't be like the leg extension would be considered more of an isolation exercise technically because we're using just the quad, whereas a one leg press we're using quad, hamstring, glute, all of it. But that one leg, you can't cheat at all. You can't use the other leg to help. So you have to do perfect form. There's no other way to do it. So I use those occasionally to, well, it's sort of on a day like today. Like today was just kind of low energy, low brain power, to be honest with you too. So I just stuck with stuff that was simple. I didn't have to think very much. The single leg stuff that I'm talking about doing next time will be light, obviously, because it's one leg versus two. It's not going to feel light to the muscle, but it's not going to stress my whole body as much. You know what I'm saying? I can only press so much weight with one leg as I can with two. So that's another thing you can do is if it's a low energy day, there's ways that you can train light when you have low energy that's not actually light to the muscle. It will feel light to your body, but it's not going to feel light to the muscle. So as we go through stuff, you'll see more stuff like that. But anyway, guys, I hope this was a good one for you. Like, follow, whatever. I don't know. We're done. We'll see you next time.